Hello and welcome to this video. In this video we will complete SAM PowerPoint Project 2. Pull up a web browser and log into the SAM website, sam.cengage.com, and log in using your student ID. Big Red is the student I'm using for this video. And on the SAM website, instead of the calendar view, if you click on the second tab, the activity list view, you'll be able to see a list of all the projects that are currently available for you. We're going to click on the PowerPoint 2 project. We get this notification window that tells us there are 5 opportunities to submit this project, and we're about to start. And we start by getting the instruction file and the start file, and in this case, support files. There are 2 support files. So first, the instruction document. So I click on this, and it says, do I want to, what happens when you click on the file depends on your browser and your browser settings. I click mine to save, and then I open the file. Now I'm going to use Word over here on the left-hand side of my screen to make it a little smaller, so I have room on the right-hand side of the screen. Also, this yellow protected view pops up. Click on the Enable Editing, and you get the normal view of the file. So I've got my instructions over here on the left-hand side of the screen, and then the other thing I need is the start file. So I click on the start file, which has a PPTX extension, PowerPoint extension. And again, the exact nature of what happens is going to depend on your browser and your setting, but save that file and then open the file after it's been saved. And here we have the PowerPoint file, again with the protected view yellow bar. I'll click Enable Editing. I do trust this file coming from the source. So now I have my instructions and my document that I'm working on. And I will keep both of these open as I do the presentation so you can follow along. The getting started, we already saw this on our first PowerPoint, our first video, but just a reminder, we want to rename this file to be _2. So I'm going to do File, Save As, and rename this file. And I want to choose where I want to save it as. And I like to always browse and save my files on the desktop so I know where they're at. So there was the file when I did the earlier project. Now I'm doing the second project, change the 1 to a 2 at the end of the file name, so that's also saved on the desktop. So I have the file name sc_PowerPoint2016 _2a. That's the one I'm working on now. Student name _2. I also need a couple of support files, and those files, I'll download those as we do those steps rather than doing them now. And the last comment before we get started, it says make sure the file name is sc_PowerPoint16 _2a, first last name, your first last name _2, and it is. Big Red, your name will be there in place of it. And make sure that the presenter notes on the first slide has this file created for your name. Okay, we're good. So let's work through the steps in this project now. As I do each step, I'm going to put a couple of asterisks over here so that you can visually see what step I'm on as we're going through this. You're enhancing a presentation for Crossroads International, which promotes cultural awareness through foreign exchange student programs. To create an attention-getting slide title on slide 2, insert word art. Now it says slide 2, no title. So if I come down to slide 2 here in my navigation area, I'll see that there's no title in the slide, and it says to insert word art. So it's slide 2, no title. That's the correct version there. Insert the word art text box. Insert a word art text box as follows, using fill, green, accent 4, soft bevel style. Type by the numbers is the word art text box. Apply wave 1 transform effect to the warp section, and to use smart guidelines to position it as shown in this figure here. So by the numbers is going to have a left margin. You can barely see it there in the instruction document. So I want by the numbers to appear on that left justified module. So let's do this now. Let's insert word art. So we go under the Insert tab, and we see the word art option. And we want to use the fill green accent 4 style. So we find that by navigating over it. And here we see gradient fill, green accent 4. We want green accent 4 soft bevel. So green accent 4 soft bevel is this one. It may be in a different place in yours. It's not guaranteed to be the first row of the 5th column, depending on the width of your window. But when you hover over it, you will see that help pop up, that hint, green accent 4 soft bevel. Type by the numbers in the text box. So it says your text here, and I'm going to say by the numbers. I'm going to apply a wave 1 transform effect from the warp section. So on this format, I want to do a transform effect in the warp section. So transform, so effects, and then transform effects, and then the warp section, I want to find wave 1. And again, I do this by navigating over it until I find the one that I'm looking for, and I get the hints for it. And wave 1, I believe, is this one, and it is. So I can see it says wave 1, I apply that. And the last step, the letter D on this first instruction, use SMART guidelines to position the word art at the top of the slide as shown in figure 1. And again, when we see this, the little hints pop up and it's hard to see exactly on the video, but as you move it to the left, you get that guideline that shows me the B is under the left margin there, and that's what I want. Okay. Step 2 says, with slide 2 by the numbers still displaying, use the format painter to apply the formatting from the text 30,000 to the text 13-18 and 8,000. So I want to use the format painter. The way we do this is you put the cursor on the text that you want to copy the format from, and then in the Home tab in the clipboard group there is a format painter, and I'm going to click this and then drag it over to paint that 13-18, and then I'm going to do it again, and we'll take that 13-18, click format painter once, and drag it over the 8,000. If you double click the format painter, which we didn't do in this example, it locks the format painter and it stays that way for a period of time. If you single click, which is the way I did it in this video, you make one painting and then the cursor, the format painter turns off. So now I can click on other parts of my document and I'm not format painting, so you want to be careful about that. If you did double click it, you would click it again to unselect it. With slide 2 still displayed on step 3 here, enter the slide note. Foreign exchange programs are popular and rewarding. So down here in the slide note or the speaker note, we're going to say foreign exchange programs are popular and rewarding. Next step, step 4 says, on slide 3, host families. Let's make sure this is what slide 3 has the title of, host families. It does. On slide 3, host families, reinforce the theme of the slide by changing the picture of the U.S. map with the picture from the file support family JPEG. Using the download from the SAM website. Okay. So I'm going to get this support file. I get the support file by going back to the web browser, and I want the family support file. So the key thing here is to make sure that you save it to your machine before you insert it into the document. Don't try to open it in your browser. Be sure to save it to your machine, which I've done here. And now I know that that's in my folder. In this case, it's in my downloads folder. When you save it to your machine, it may not be your downloads folder. It may be a different place. Depends on the settings of your browser. But make sure you save it to your machine. Now that I have it in my downloads folder, I can go back to my presentation and I can do the instruction text, which is to change the picture. So I'm going to change this picture. And I could do it by right-clicking and saying change the picture, or I could delete it and insert the picture. I'm just going to click the change picture option. And it's going to pull up a window here, and it's going to allow me to browse my local machine to get the image that I want to get. Since I'm getting the file locally, I'm going to say work offline and just get it from my local area. It's in my downloads. I remember I saved it in my downloads. So I go to the downloads, and then I make sure I get the correct one there, the the support family JPEG. Okay. Step 5. On slide 4, exchange students. So I'll click over here to slide 4, and it does say exchange students. Good. On slide 4, exchange students. Format this picture, format the picture of students as follows. So I want to apply a picture style, the perspective shadow white picture style, and then I want to apply a glow effect, blue-gray 11-point glow, accent color 5. So let's do that real quick. If you select the image on our ribbon, a new tab will appear, the Format tab. And inside that Format tab, we have the picture style and the glow effect. So the glow effect is here in the picture effects, and this is I'm doing the B part first, the blue gray 11-point accent color 5 glow effect. So glow effect, and this is the 5 at the end of that accent color 5 lets me know I'm in the 5th column here. So I'm kind of doing this backwards. Now it happens to be blue-gray. That's based on the current theme. With a different theme, accent color 5 might be something besides blue-gray. But it's accent color 5, and then I want to go down to the 11-point glow accent color 5. And that ends up being the 3rd option in this column. So again, when the cursor's over it, I get the pop-up hint, blue-gray 11-point glow accent color 5, which is what I'm looking for. I select that. I also need to do the picture style, and the picture styles are here in this group, in the picture styles group, and I want to do the perspective shadow white. So again, with the image selected, the format option pops up, and I want to find perspective shadow white. And it might be one of these that pops up on the first frame, and if it's not, then what I have to do is go into the click on the down arrow, and I will see all of the picture styles that I have an option for. And I think the picture style white is this one. Sorry, perspective shadow white. Perspective shadow whites. That's the correct. Okay. So we've done those 2 steps. Moving on to our next step, step 6. With slide 4 still displaying, change the font of the text below the picture to be Calibri. So here's the text below the picture. I select the entire paragraph below the entire text. I do that by triple clicking or by dragging and dropping. And then I want to go up here in the home group, in the home tab in the font group, and select the Calibri font name. Next step, step 7. On slide 5, make connections. Let me go ahead and select step 5, make sure I have the correct slide here. Make connections. On slide 5, format the slide background as follows. So insert another support file, the map support file available from the website, and then change the transparency of the background picture. So first let me get the support file by pulling up the browser, getting that other support file and being sure that I save it rather than opening it in the browser. And I happen to have saved mine again in the downloads folder, so I know where it is. Go back to PowerPoint here, and in PowerPoint I'm going to insert that file as my background. So I can right click on this and say format background. When I have format background, I want to use a file for my background. So I'm in the format background area, and I'm saying use a file, and I browse, make sure I'm in the correct place in my downloads folder, and I am in my downloads folder. I know that that's where it's located. the map option. I'll click that and say insert it. So now my background for this slide is that map. And then it says part B of my step 7 instructions is to change the transparency of the background to 70%. So here's a transparency option again in the format background. And I want to specify this as 70%. I can just type that in. And it makes for an interesting little slide effect. Step 8. With slide 5 still displaying, use the Thesaurus to replace the word unforgettable in the last bullet with the first synonym beginning with the letter E. So be prepared for an unforgettable experience. Instead of unforgettable, I'm going to have the cursor on this word, and I'm going to use the Thesaurus. Now, I don't need the format shape anymore, so I'm going to close that window that was left over from our previous step. And I want to apply our Thesaurus here. And I can right-click. I can right-click on this term and get the Thesaurus, I think, from the drop-down, but it doesn't show up on my video here. It's off my visible area, so I'll use it the other way. I'll come under the Review tab. This might be an easier way to do it anyways. With the cursor on the word unforgettable, in the Review tab, click the Thesaurus. And it pulls up a Thesaurus pane on the right-hand side, and I'm supposed to use the first synonym beginning with the letter E. So here's my, for unforgettable, I can see unforgettables in my search window here. The first synonym that begins with E is extraordinary. So I'm going to select that, and I can either double click it or I can click the arrow down and say insert. So it replaces be prepared for an extraordinary experience. Step 9. Step 9 says to keep the presentation brief and focused, delete slide 6. So slide 6 in their own words, make sure that's the slide title, in their own words it is. I want to delete this slide. And I can do this a couple ways. I can select it and hit the delete key. I can right click and say delete slide, whichever I want to do there. Now slide 6 is something different. Step 10. On the new slide 6 resources, and I can see that that is the new slide 6 in fact, format the picture of the Exchange Program website as follows. Okay. Add a picture border using a 3-point weight and change the color of the picture border to be dark teal, background 2, lighter 40%. And it tells us third column, fourth row in the theme colors. So on this border, and again this is left over, this Thesaurus is left over from a previous step, I'm going to select the picture on the new slide 6, and I'm going to format the picture by adding a picture border. And I can right click and say format picture, and I have a group of options up here. The first one is the fill and the second one is the line. And on the line option, I'm going to have a solid line, and it's going to be a 3-point border. So the width of the solid line border is going to be 3 points, and the color of the picture border is going to be, and select my color from this color option, and I'm going to use in the theme colors the third column, fourth row. Third column, which should be dark teal, and it is. And I want to go fourth row, which should be dark teal, 40%, and it is. Step 11. With slide 6 as our last step, with slide 6 still displaying, copy one of the circle shapes and paste it on the same slide. Now it's not telling us which one to copy. Copy one of the circle shapes and paste it on the same slide. Modify the paste shape as follows. Okay, so I don't know which one to use. I'm going to copy this second one for no particular reason. And I'm going to go under, oops, I'm trying to think of so I'll just do this with it selected. I will do the Control-C copy, or I also could have, I think, right selected copy, either one, and then unselect the circle so the slide is selected, and then paste. And I can do Control-V paste, or I can use the paste from the drop down. So I have a third circle now. And I just maneuver this, and as I place it underneath the circles, it doesn't tell us exactly where to place it, but I'm going to choose, I think it makes sense to place it under the other two circles. Modify it by changing the text instead of what I had selected to be learn more. Now I can do this by clicking the cursor in here and it'll automatically allow me to edit it, or I can also right click and say edit text. Either way, I'll get my cursor inside of this. I'm going to select all the old text to delete and replace it with learn more. Oops, lowercase M-O-R-E. Use the smart guidelines to position the learn more circle below the other two circles. Okay, so I do want to position it. They do tell us to position it. They just told us to position it after. So here's what it should look like. I can see that mapping from my instructions. Oh, sorry, we're not done yet. That figure was not the final figure. It was the positioning of the third circle figure. I thought that was something else. Sorry. Step 12. With slide 6 still displayed, insert a shape to the right of the Get Started circle as follows. Insert a right arrow shape from the block arrow section, and then apply an effect to that shape, resize it, and position it. So we're going to apply, the first part of this is insert a right arrow shape from the blocks arrow section. So with the same slide selected, under Insert, we want to go under Shapes. And in the Shapes drop down, I can see that there are right arrows in the block arrows option. And I cursor over that and let a hint pop up, right arrow. There's other things that kind of look like right arrows, but this one is actually called capital R right, capital A arrow. So that's the one we're talking about. So I'm going to select it. And now I've got a painter, and I just get to paint my right arrow to be whatever size and position I want it. We're going to resize it here in a minute, so I'll just place it in there. Letter B, step 12B, apply the moderate effect, dark red accent 1, shape style. So with the shape selected, the Format tab appears, and in the Format tab, I get some style effects, and I want the moderate effect, dark red accent 1. And that one is, where's the moderate effect, dark red accent 1? There it is. And again, make sure you can see that hint pop up, moderate effect, dark red accent 1. Letter C, 12C, resize the arrow to the approximate size shown in figure 3 below. And then use smart guides to position it as shown below. So now we're just having to eyeball this a little bit. I'm not exactly sure how easy that's going to be to do it. That looks about right. And as I do the grid lines, it shows up for me. I want it to show up for me here. There we go. It shows up for me about what I want to have. So I think that looks pretty good. Step 13. To create a friendlier tone, find each instance of the word advice and replace it with the word tips. Do not include a period. You should make 2 replacements in the presentation. So in the Home tab, I have a replace option in the group to the far right. And if I click on this, I'm going to replace advice with tips, not using periods. So I'm going to replace all, and it tells me that it made 2 replacements, so that's good. And then finally, and we're correct by saying finally at this point, this is our last step, then the final figure shows up. Check the spelling in your presentation to identify and correct any spelling errors. You should find and correct at least 1 spelling error. So again, in the home group, in the review group, we want to do the spelling option. So I select the spelling option, and it takes me through this format shape dialog. I don't need that anymore. I should have closed that. In the spelling group, it takes me through, and I can see highly motivated to learn abroad. So I do want to use the suggestion there. It's suggested learn. I'm going to say change to accept it. And spell check complete. You're good to go. So now it tells us in slide sorter view what our presentation should look like. I select slide sorter view, and it does, what I see in my PowerPoint does look like the figure. That's good. They make the idea of saving your presentation, closing and exiting PowerPoint before you upload. I like that idea as well, so I will save my presentation. I know that I saved it to my desktop, so I know where it's at. I'm going to close PowerPoint, go back to my browser, and upload the file for a grade. So I browse to upload my file. I get it from my desktop. I make sure I get the file with the correct name. 16_2 is the one I'm looking for here. I will open that and submit. I should get 3 green check marks, and then I can go to my then I can go to the gradebook to see the results. I'm not sure. There it is. My X was not showing up for me. I had to scroll up to see the X. So go to the reports, find PowerPoint 2. If you have more than one copy, if you've submitted more than once, make sure you check the time and date to get the most recent submission, and look at the report. Oops. Try that again. So select on the report, and I open up my report. And what this will do is it will add a slide. So I have my regular presentation. It's added a new slide at the end of my report. And I open that new slide up, I can see my score. So I got 90 out of 100 in this case. And you're allowed 5 attempts per project. So let's see what we did wrong and make those corrections and submit again. So I can see as I scroll down, I have 2 X's here. On slide 2, I mistyped foreign exchange programs are popular and rewarding. And on slide 4, the picture effect should be formatted using the blue-gray. So I didn't do my picture effect format correct. So let me go back to my instructions here and see the 2 things that I missed. So let me make corrections here. So I have to spell that correctly. That's easy enough. That was just a typo. And on slide 4, I was supposed to use the picture effect blue-gray 11-point glow accent color 5. Okay. Now I don't want to submit this file, so I'm not submitting this file. I want to go back to my file on my desktop. Because this is the file that I want to edit. I want to edit the file on my desktop. So let me go back to the file on my desktop and make those changes. So first of all, the foreign exchange footnote was on slide 2. So I missed, that's just a typo. Foreign exchange programs are popular and rewarding. I didn't have a period at the end. It may be griping just because I didn't have that period at the end, which would be a little bit nitpicky. And let me show you a little trick here also. If I want to see exactly the difference, I'm going to highlight this into Notepad, and I'm going to highlight what I had typed. Paste that into Notepad side by side, and I can see that it was character for character. What I had was exactly right, except for the period at the end. So, oops, that's pretty nitpicky, but that's the problem with technology, is it can be nitpicky at times. The other thing that it marked me off was on slide 4 that I was supposed to apply the blue-gray 11-point accent color 5, which I thought I did. But let's see here. So I'm looking under the exchange students, format the picture, picture effects, glow, blue-gray 11-point accent color 5. And the reason it might have griped about that is because I did those steps out of order. So let's see what happens. So I made those 2 corrections, put the period in, made the correction. And let me go back now and resubmit. So I'm going to go back to the activity list, go back to PowerPoint 2. I have 4 attempts left. Let me go to the upload file here from the desktop. Submit again. Let's see how this does. So in my reports, I've got my 2nd attempt. This one's the newer attempt. I will open up the report on the newer attempt. And that fixed them both. Okay, so got to put the period in, and you need to do those 2 formatting steps in the correct order. So there we go. And that's this project. Have a good day.